I'm Matt Gishard, and this is No Holds Barred. In this episode, I'm going to talk about transferred intent from a criminal aspect. So let's talk about transferred intent. And I'm looking at the jury instructions that relate to transferred intent. And in particular, we'll talk about some real cases that happened related to shootings and killings. Transferred intent. If the defendant intended to kill one person, but by mistake or accident killed someone else instead, then the crime, if any, is the same as if the intended person had been killed. In a murder case, transferred intent absolutely applies. Somebody's a bad shot and he shoots, or is at a party and sprays a crowd when trying to shoot one gang member, or in something we just heard about, and that is a young boy riding in the back seat of his mother's car, in fact, an infant. And there were shots fired, not at him, but at another vehicle, but a round came into his vehicle and killed him. It took some time for the police to investigate and find, but ultimately they arrested some individuals for engaging in that gun battle on a California freeway, resulting in the death of an individual. So transferred intent absolutely applies, and you heard the definition right out of the jury instructions, and that is they fully intended to fire a weapon at another individual to kill him, and instead they killed a totally innocent person. In Fremont, California, same thing happened. A young child, 5 years old, the family's on the way to a party. There is a round fired that comes into the vehicle and kills the 5-year-old in the back seat. A tragic case, and sadly, a case that we hear about much too often. However, the transferred intent rule is certainly a very good rule, and it absolutely applies. So when we go back and think about some of the issues related to murder, murder is the killing of a human being or a fetus with malice of forethought. So that malice of forethought, that intent to kill somebody with malice of forethought, applies whether you're a good shot or you're a bad shot. If you hit your target and there's malice of forethought proved, let's assume it's a first-degree murder or perhaps a second-degree murder, depending on the facts, or if you miss that person and kill somebody else, it is still a first-degree murder. It is still, or perhaps a second-degree murder. And oftentimes we think about the defense is, but I didn't mean to kill that person. I didn't mean to do that. But transferred intent applies. Now, sometimes we think about the person that commits a second-degree murder when there's a moving boxcar and they're out with their hunting rifle and it's out in the country and they just fire at the boxcar just for fun. Okay, that's a malicious mischief. Depending on the gun rules in that particular area, they can or cannot shoot that weapon out in that area. But shooting at that boxcar, it's a no-no. You shouldn't do it. But unbeknownst to the person who shoots, inside that boxcar was a person traveling from some state to the other. When I was a kid, they used to call them hobos. Let's assume there was a hobo in the car, to use a long ago term, and that person was killed. Is there the issue of transferred intent? No, there isn't. But is there a crime? There absolutely is. And that is typically what we call a second-degree murder case. It's an inherently dangerous act. You have a weapon. You know what that weapon can do. You aim that weapon at that boxcar. You intentionally fire that weapon at that boxcar. and you hit and kill somebody inside the boxcar. Malice aforethought is inferred from your actions, and it is a second-degree murder. It's not a first-degree murder under normal circumstances, but it is a second-degree murder. But transferred intent does not apply in that particular case. But keep in mind, transferred intent is you intend to kill or to injure. And the person that says, well, I only meant to shoot him in the leg, and you hit the femoral artery and the person bleeds to death, if you intended to shoot, that in fact is still a murder. But if you intend to shoot somebody and you hit another person and it hits their femoral artery and they bleed to death, and you said, not only did I not intend to kill the first person, I certainly mistakenly shot the second, and I didn't mean to. Transfer intent applies. That is probably a second-degree murder, and too bad for the person who committed that particular act, because that is the issue of transferred intent. So we can think of mostly it applies in cases like a murder case or a shooting. It can apply in some other situations, but for the purposes of this, I want people to understand what transferred intent is and how it applies to someone driving down the highway and deciding that they're going to engage in a gun battle with somebody else, or at a party, shooting at somebody at a party, and it goes inside. We hear those terrible stories of goes inside and kills somebody who's sitting at their kitchen table, or for whatever reason. Or mistakenly, I thought it was a fellow gang member, and it wasn't. It was a totally innocent party. Transferred intent applies. I want to say the sad thing about this is we're hearing so much about this kind of gun violence where totally innocent people are being struck and killed by random shots fired for whatever reason. And it's sad to say, but I often tell people that if you, a family member or some loved one is a victim of this kind of violent death, where transferred intent is the potential that the person who fires it doesn't get to say, well, I didn't mean to shoot your loved one. I'm terribly sorry. That was a big mistake. But it might be important for you to contact an attorney and look at what, certainly, what rights you may have with respect to civilly going against that person, and certainly talk with the police and the district attorney's office about what is the appropriate way for them to approach this kind of a crime, and you as a victim, what you're going through and suffering this kind of incredible and troubling situation. If you like this episode of No Holds Barred, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It helps with our YouTube algorithms. And very important, please, if you have questions or comments for me, note them below. I'm always happy to hear from you.